doing our last term work assignment where you're going to be applying your literary theory to a short story. The short story is in the content area of activity 3. It's called The Dancer. And you're going to analyze that theory using one specific critical lens. So you should already have done that. But a lot of the submissions that I've seen so far don't have a lot of evidence pulled out of the text. So whichever lens you choose, you should make sure you can find a lot of evidence in the text from that critical lens. So it's not just about finding two things in the text. You're going to really make sure that you have identified a lot of observations in the text and then try to analyze them to help you come up with a thesis. The theses I've seen so far have been okay. That's not to say if you've already handed in your thesis and gotten feedback that I thought it was terrible. That's not what I want you to take away from what I'm saying. But I do want everyone to have a look through here in assignment 2 where it talks about generating a thesis. Give you some really insightful thesis examples that you should kind of use as kind of your benchmark for this is what we're going for at this level in terms of a thesis statement for your final term task. So it should be a high level of analysis, not just pointing out features of the text, but drawing conclusions because of the features you identify. So it doesn't have to be theme. It could be theme. The easiest is theme. But if you'll notice, there's one here, number 2, where it talks about how Gertrude's identity is torn between that of an archetypal mother who wants to nurture and comfort her son, and Hamlet's representation of her as an archetypal seductress. So it's talking about archetypes and pointing out a conflict in the story. So it's using the archetypal lens to come to a deeper level of analysis of the text. And that's the benchmark for our thesis statement. So make sure you check out your feedback before you start drafting. Your final product, and the one that you should be working on today, because you should have already accomplished the first 2 steps, but you might need to do a little refining. The final product is the textual analysis, which should be about 500 words. It should be formal in style. It should be more formatted the way that you did literary analysis essays in the past. So you're going to come up with a clear thesis statement, clear arguments that prove that thesis. You're going to find evidence in the text and analyze that evidence through whatever critical lens you chose. And then explain how all that evidence proves your arguments and thesis. So just to go over the criteria, it's going to be 500 words, using your particular literary theory to highlight something significant or interesting in the text. You're going to attach a short paragraph to your analysis as an appendix, explaining some of the challenges you experienced. So that's just like the reflections you've done in the past, while analyzing the short story as well as strategies you use to overcome them. So this is like a reader reflection as opposed to a writing reflection. So focus on the analysis part of it. Make sure that your reader response is, or not reader response, sorry, your textual analysis is 500 words, has a clear thesis statement, that your ideas are organized into well-developed paragraphs, your typical paragraphs, that you apply your terminology from your chosen literary theory to explain your ideas. So check out in activity 1 in the content, there was a list of terms. You could go to those terms and try and figure out how you could apply them to your analysis to kind of create a more insightful finished text. You're going to use your arguments in your body paragraphs are going to be clearly related to your thesis, and you're going to cite everything in a properly formatted works cited. So even if you are only using the source text as evidence, you're going to cite it properly, and it's done here for you. The only thing you have to add is a hanging indent. All right, for your evaluation criteria, this is a reading assignment. So I am going to give you feedback on your writing just to prepare you for your final essay, for your summative, but you're not getting any marks for your writing. I'm giving you marks for your analysis. So if we look at our level 3, did you, in terms of reading for meaning, did you identify significant and relevant ideas and details in the text to support your thesis with considerable accuracy? So was your evidence appropriate for your argument? Do you make inferences about a text using stated and implied ideas with considerable insight? This is where if you're doing reader response theory, you can sometimes go astray, because if you find evidence in the text and then just make this like random um, inference that's not closely enough related to the actual source text, then it can lead you into trouble. So make sure your inferences are reasonable and hopefully insightful. You're going to apply your key ideas and terminology of a literary theory. So if you're talking about feminist literary criticism, you're going to use some of the terms associated with feminist literary theory. So go back and add them. For R2, understanding form and style, were you able to analyze stylistic elements, form, and text features to support your thesis? So that means if you are using whatever critical lens, you're not just going to look for the content of the text. You're not just looking for the literal meaning or the plot. You're also going to be looking for who's speaking in the text, um, who's the narrator, how does that impact your understanding of the story. You're going to look for things like symbolism and literary devices and point out how those entrench specific ideas related to your theory in the text. You're going to look for diction and how specific word choices can lead you to specific conclusions. So this is something that was not done very well in the first literary theory analysis. So use this opportunity to improve on this category. R3 is reading with fluency, and that's where you're going to show me that you can use your knowledge of vocabulary and diction to analyze meaning with considerable effectiveness. So sorry, diction is then going to go in this one. So you're going to analyze specific word choices. So don't forget that part. Don't skip over looking at how words can be really loaded with emotion and baggage. There's an example, I think, in the toolbox unit in activity 4. There's an example of a reader response literary criticism text, and you can see how they analyze diction. You can analyze diction in any of the criticisms. So focus on that. And then your final reflection paragraph is going to show me that you can analyze challenges and use effective strategies with considerable effectiveness. So are you able to identify challenges and strategies to overcome them effectively? If you have any questions, please post them in the discussion board, and I'll make a note about timelines underneath this video. But essentially, I'm going to give you feedback tonight before I go to bed, which is very soon, and then tomorrow morning. So if you are late in handing in your assignments from today, so the thesis and the graphic organizer, then I will be late giving you feedback, and you're going to end up in a bit of a crunch time. So you should start without the feedback, and then hopefully have to do not very much editing, but you probably have to do some more than you intended if you did not hand in your assignments on time. Remember, again, the deadline for today is 3 p.m. So get your textual analysis in by then, and as well as any overdue coursework. All right. Have a good one. Enjoy today.